Welcome to Advocacy 101 with Empower Missouri. The goal of this video is to give you a brief introduction to the legislative process in Missouri in state-level advocacy. But first, let's introduce you to Empower Missouri. I'm Jeanette Mott Oxford, Executive Director. Empower Missouri was founded in 1901 and is a statewide, non-partisan, nonprofit organization that focuses on effective public policies on several social welfare issues. We've worked continuously as a strong voice for households to have adequate food and shelter throughout our 117-year-old history. We have always focused on social justice, equity, and inclusion. Our mission is to advocate for the well-being of all Missourians through civic leadership, education, and research. But why advocate? Each of us can help elected officials see how policies are affecting real people. We have a responsibility to tell our legislators stories and data that can help them make better and more informed decisions. Advocates and advocacy are vital pieces of the legislative process. Those living in poverty cannot afford lobbyists like special interests in our state and nation. Persons working in human services have an obligation to bring their voices into the process. But how do we advocate effectively? The first step in effective legislative advocacy is to know who your legislators are on the state level. Do you know? To find out who your state legislators are, go to www.senate.mo.gov and click on Legislator Lookup. Here you can type in your address and it will tell you who your elected officials are, both state and federal. Once you know who your legislators are, it's good to learn more about them. If you click on their page, you can read their biography. Find out what they do for a living, what community of faith they attend, what clubs they're involved in. Likewise, on that page, you can see what pieces of legislation they've sponsored in the past. This will help you learn more about their interests. It can help you figure out where you have connections, what you have in common, and make you more effective. Always remember, legislators are people just like you and me. Be respectful and know that we will always have differing viewpoints on some things. Understanding the legislative process and how a bill becomes a law is another important part of advocacy. First, the bill is introduced in either the House or the Senate. Then the bill is assigned to committee by the Speaker of the House or the Pro Tem of the Senate. In committee, the bill will be subject to public hearing, where both supporters and opponents may testify. If the bill is voted successfully out of committee, then it goes to the chamber floor to be debated, possibly amended, and eventually voted on by all members of that chamber. This is called perfection of the bill. Once the bill is perfected, it is subject to one more final vote. After the bill has cleared one chamber, it will be sent to the other chamber, where the process is essentially the same. If the bill is changed in the second chamber, then a conference committee will be appointed, made up of representatives and senators to hash out the differences. They issue a conference committee report which goes back to both chambers for a final vote. After both chambers have perfected the same version of the bill, it then goes to the governor's desk, where it can be signed into law or vetoed. Not many of the bills filed each year actually make it to the finish line and become a law. Understanding what bills have a chance, who has the power to move things along, and the timeline are important parts of advocacy. Influential people to contact are usually, first, your senator and representative, because they are who you're going to have the most influence with. As a constituent of theirs, you are who matters most to them. They work on behalf of you and your neighbors. They need your support in order to be elected again, so they're especially interested in your viewpoint. Secondly, there's the chair of the committee that the bill is going to be heard in. That's an important place to advocate. Also, there's the House and Senate leadership, the Speaker of the House, and the President Pro Tem of the Senate. Sometimes advocacy can feel intimidating, but keep in mind, legislators are human beings just like you. Here are a few tips for advocating with them in Jefferson City. First, before you go to Jefferson City, be sure you call or email your representative and senator and make an appointment with them. Even if you're not able to schedule an appointment, don't worry. When you're in Jefferson City, stop by their office or head up to the third floor of the Capitol to see your legislator. Secondly, when you go to your legislator's office, most times you will speak to their legislative assistant, or LA for short. LAs know a lot. Because of term limits, the LAs often have been around the Capitol longer than the legislator they're serving. They know about the process, they know how to pass along information to help their bosses out to get things done. Most LAs make a practice of being gracious and hospitable, especially to constituents of the representative or senator that they serve. If your legislator isn't in his or her office, they might be on the floor of the House or Senate. You can still speak to them while they are on the floor as long as they aren't voting on a bill. To do this, take the elevator up to the 3rd floor. You will not be allowed on the floor, but a doorman will be able to tell the legislator you'd like to meet with them, tell the doorman who you are and who you'd like to see. If the legislator is there, they may come out in the hallway to meet with you. A 4th tip is that advocacy is simply educating. You probably know more about the issues you want to advocate on than your legislator does. Legislators have to know about so many issues, so they cannot know about them all. They make laws on highways, education, business, health, and even things like the state ice cream cone and the state dinosaur. It is too much for even the most brilliant legislator to know about all of them. Your role is to help educate them, so take a deep breath, stay calm, and advocate. The 5th thing to remember is that January through May, the legislature is in session. However, it's important to get to know your legislator before the session starts, if possible. Of course, you can and you should call their office and advocate on issues during session too. But in order to have the most impact, getting to know your legislator and educating them on issues year-round is important and very effective. There are so many issues that deserve advocacy, and we all live busy lives. That's the value of an organization like Empower Missouri. We can draw important legislation to your attention and give you timely information about an action you can take that can really matter. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date on policy issues in Missouri. You can also find more Advocacy 101 resources on our website as well and see what our policy priorities are for the year. Imagine how you'll feel when a bill that you advocate on becomes a law, a bill that actually makes life better for your neighbors. There's nothing more satisfying. Come join us in Jefferson City.